Hi everyone, my name is Cynthia. Let's talk books, and today I have a review of Bel Ami by Guy de Maupassant. So this is part of my Reading the French Classics series, and it's a book that I really enjoyed, although the language and the tone of it is kind of very old-fashioned, and I don't think this book will be great for everybody. But if you can handle reading classics, if you like these kind of slow-paced character study kinds of stories, I think this is a really good one. So let's get right to it. First off, let's talk about the plot of the story. There's not a whole lot of things happening in this story because I said it's more of a kind of character study, but it is set in Belle Époque Paris, and it does a really good job of kind of putting you in a particular section of that world, right? Belle Époque Paris is kind of just this explosion, melange of different things. And this takes you into the world of kind of this upper class, upper middle class, and then upper class society, into the newspaper world as well. And what you get is you're following Georges Duroy, who is the Bel Ami that the title refers to. He is a veteran who has returned from Algeria, and he's trying to make his way in the world. He wants to make money. He wants to make a ton of money, and is very unsatisfied with the kind of options that he has found in Paris. Right? But on a walk, he meets up with an old friend of his, and who invites him to dinner, and then there begins his rise within Parisian society. Now, the book, while we're following a male character, I think that the strongest presence in the book really comes from the women, because the way that Duroy makes his way up within the ranks of society is by using women. Like it's his relationship with women that actually give rise to like him making moves and rising within society. So it's really more about the women in this world than it is about him. Although the book is definitely offering a critique of society and the fact that brains and intelligence don't matter in this world at all. It is not what the women are looking for. It's not even what the men are looking for. All it takes is a pretty smile and sex, and you can move your way up in society. And there's definitely a critique here of that. And of people who like use each other, right? That this is how this world functions: is you use each other in order to make money and to set yourself up in a good position. It is also a critique of publishing and the news media. So in this world, newspapers are really important. They were really important, but as I said, de Maupassant is criticizing that world and the fact that they're not really printing truth. That what sells, what the editors are interested in, is sensationalism, selling a story, selling something. Whether it's real or not does not matter to them. It is also an indictment of the editors and the writers in this world, who Maupassant shows us are often not even writing the work themselves. That oftentimes it's the wives of these editors, or some brilliant women behind the scenes that are doing a lot of the legwork, the actual writing of it, because these guys that are in important positions are really nothing but a pretty face. Right? And so one of the major themes that stands out to me is that of gender roles, right? That women in this world do not have a lot of power. And in fact, this is why I thought this book would actually be really good to use in that kind of 19th century French history class, because you see the ways in which women are limited in this world, right? That they can't be editors of newspapers, they can't even be writers of newspapers, not in their own name, and that even where they can exercise more power is kind of behind the scenes. But even there, they have a lot of restrictions, right? That women's role in society is kind of both really important and rather superficial. You see it in the fact that they're not getting credit for their writing and for their editorial work, but also in the rights they have within marriage. That yes, in this world, like lots of sex is happening. A lot of the sex is outside of marriage. Women are having sex with men that are not their husbands, but also that within marriage they don't have a lot of rights. A divorce is a central theme in this story, and you see how limited women are when it comes to getting divorced and with like having possession of their own fortune, their own money, and that like this is a part of a this is part of a really interesting history in France of like women before the French Revolution didn't have a whole lot of rights, right? During the French Revolution, there's a moment in which rights are extended to women. They don't get the right to vote, but they get the right to initiate divorces, and they get the right over their children and the right over money. That is all done away when Napoleon rises to power. The Napoleonic Code or Civil Code of 1804 erases a lot of those rights for women and basically puts women in a subservient legal position. And that ends up kind of dictating the lives of women for generations. In the 19th century, you do have feminists that were fighting against those laws, but they are eliminated one by one, like little by little. It's a slow process of women getting more rights in France. And at this time, women did not have a right to divorce their husbands. Like they can't file for divorce. The husbands can file for divorce, but it has to be within limited means. Basically, the Napoleonic Code valued the heterosexual nuclear family, and even men had a hard time getting divorces. You had to basically a man had to catch his wife like in the middle of like cheating on him, and then he could divorce her and she would get nothing. Like she would get nothing. The husband got complete legal rights over the children, over the money, over the property, over everything. That didn't mean that women were powerless. I always like to remind people that although women have had very limited rights, that women had always found ways of exercising power, but that the legal rights placed major constraints on their lives, and we see that very clearly here. In this translation of the book, it's really funny because at first I was like, okay, where does the Bel Ami come in? Where does that phrase is going to come in? I'm always looking for the title in the books. And it's actually translated as pretty boy. Pretty boy. So whenever it comes into the story, I was kind of taken aback reading pretty boy. Once I realized that they mean is they're translating the title. Then in my head I was just saying Bel Ami, but this is a really great story when it comes to all of that. A last theme that I'll mention in here is that of masculinity. There's a scene with a duel, and a lot of this is actually a kind of a key moment in history and in gender studies. A lot of historians have written about how masculinity was defined and exercised in 19th century France, because like the duel is a really important part of what like made man a man, even though it was illegal. For a long time it wasn't illegal. Then it is made illegal, and yet still it was a key part of like masculinity and how men exercise that masculinity and power. And you see a lot of those themes in here. There's also a lot of Orientalism and anti-Semitism. There's one character in here that is Jewish, and you can see some clear anti-Semitism towards that character. There's also, especially at the beginning of the story, a lot of discussions about Algeria, because Duroy is a vet who's just come back from Algeria, and he is treated as a kind of expert on the North African colonies, when really he's not. Like, he was there as a colonial soldier, and his knowledge of Algeria is very limited, but yet that's how France and the French people craft an image of what Algeria is, rather than getting it from the people, the Algerians themselves. So this Orientalism, this treating Algeria and Algerians as the other, is very, very present here. So there's quite a bit to like dig into and kind of unpack within this book. At times it can be slow because there's not a whole lot of action, a lot of plot, but if you're interested in these themes, I think it is a book that is well worth a read. So that is it for me. I'll leave it there. Let me know what you think down below. If you read the book, if you read anything else by Guy de Maupassant. But thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye.